Hi, good morning. Today is December 20th, and this is the Kubeflow community meeting, and it's governed by the community code, Kubeflow community code of conduct. I apologize if I'm a little spacey today. I've had a little cold. We have a large agenda today. We've collected a lot of folks, and we figured we'd do our normal walkthrough. Before we start, does anybody have any walk-on topics or would like to introduce themselves? All right, feel free to bring up topics as we go along. I'm not trying to ramrod things through, but I want to keep things moving. We typically start with the release update. It appears that the release is about on track. Although we would say that, coming up here about this time, we should be about 50% of the way completed with the software development by the working groups. And, we do have the feature freeze coming up on the 25th. We'll talk about what we expect, the folks to have ready by the feature freeze. That'd be the 25th of January. I know that some working groups have expressed a little bit of concern already about this date, but we'd like to see if we could try to do our best to hold it. We have a project board for those of you that have gone on and looked at the project board. I'll bring it up here just real quick so folks can see it. But this is obviously, we've got open items for many different of the projects we have here, whether it's notebooks or pipelines or Ray or MLflow or support for Kubernetes 124. There's a lot of things that are called out there, but not every little item. Some items are consolidated, like under notebooks. There's a bunch of items under the notebook tracking item. We also have a distribution status list here for those of you who have looked at this. We do have and are tracking the distributions that plan to support 1.7. And, it's great here that almost everybody has come back and identified. I think the AWS folks, hey, Suraj, good to see you here. I think this may not be updated at this point, but at some point we do expect, right, AWS to support Kubeflow 1.7.
Yeah, I already commented on the issue. I think it's just a matter of updating this table.
Yeah, I think you're right too. And so I don't know about the OpenShift. Is anybody here from the OpenShift team? Did we already get this nailed down too? Is this just I thought we had somebody comment on that as well. But we look in good shape on the distributions. I think the only thing that I'm concerned about on the distributions is the discussion about which Kubernetes versions that we will be supporting. And so, there was just some discussion with Google and I think with AWS about, their managed Kubernetes versions and what version they'll be running on. I know Dominic is trying to push us to the tip to Kubernetes 125. But I think a lot of folks are saying that they need 124. Obviously, this expands our test matrix. But if anybody sees a blocking issue in the testing plan that we have here, especially with these dependencies, or if anybody has updates on any of these dependencies, Kimonos, I think there was some question yesterday, if we could just confirm, customize cert manager and Dex.
Right, Dex, this is the current target as well. There's no need for updating at least for 1.25. So for now, we don't immediately have plans on upgrading it. Regarding customize, this is the only part that it's also not clear to me yet. The PR that we wanted is merged, and we're just waiting to see when is the next release going to be. Most probably from what I see, it's going to be on Customize 5.0 is going to be their next release. So there's a good chance that we're going to jump right on that and just have the manual instructions work with 4.0. But I'm still waiting on the customized folks to confirm when this will be in.
I have one question regarding DEX because OIDC auth service is also related, and I'm not sure whether this PR was merged with the additional authentication methods.
You mean the PR that updates the auth service?
Yeah, because it's related to DEX, and maybe I'm not sure which DEX version it's going to need.
Okay, so the good news here is that an engineer is already reviewing this PR internally just to battle check it initially. So if there's going to be any change needed, we'll know within this week.
Okay, that's very good because yeah.
All right.
And I think one thing to add regarding Selden, I think Selden was only compatible with 1.24 and they are working on getting it also ready for 1.25, as far as I remember from the GitHub issues. And I think Anna Young and the Selden people talked a lot about it.
How about that? I'll call it a stretch. All right, so yesterday we had a release team meeting. If there are any concerns or release blocking issues, please raise them. That was a request from Dominic. If the working groups need anything, need the release team to test 125, please provide a date with some initial build that could be used for manual testing. So if a release team, for instance, the pipelines team only can test on 124 because that's the stable version or the rapid version available on GKE. If somebody like that needs testing of that working group's code on 125, we need to raise an issue about that and see if we can find some help for them. And what we expect, I believe this is what we talked about yesterday, the manifest repository updated with the latest release candidates for each of the working groups. The release candidate images are published, and if possible, get a change log with the new features. And one thing that I would like to ask for folks to think about is trying to highlight the breaking changes. We had been asked about upgrades, and we had pushed that back and said that would not be something that the release team documents or works on in this cycle. At least that would be not a committed thing as upgrades. But I think the first step to doing an upgrade is understanding the breaking changes. And from a best practice, I just want to ask, if possible, the working groups to think about, really think about if we could highlight the breaking changes and start to put that into our best practices for every release.
I think one of the problems is that, for example, even the installation guide is quite wrong in many places. For example, it says something completely wrong about when you install Kubeflow pipelines, and I even did consult customers so far which ran into this issue. So it's not only the documenting the breaking changes, but also fixing the installation documentation.
Yep. Well, I guess in some ways, maybe I have to think about what that installation docs and whose responsibilities are they, especially is it the manifest working group or is it the working groups themselves? And depending on whether it's the full kit and caboodle of all Kubeflow or just a particular working group, how those responsibilities play. But to your point, installation, documentation, we've gotten a lot of feedback that needs to be improved, and perhaps we need to raise an issue on that. So good point. But I think that is that probably in this phase here, Kimonis, wouldn't that be in this part in the manifest or the distribution where we'd be working on the installation guides.
I missed the first part of the question. It was if it's part of the manifest to ensure that the installation instructions we have are up to date. Was that the question or something else?
Yeah, so there's two parts of this. One is Julius pointed out that the current installation guide is probably not correct for pipelines.
At least for KFP, because it says something about Docker executor, emissary executor, and it's wrong because it's changed some time ago in KFP, for example, and people are installing the wrong version because of that.
Let's fix that. Okay. And yes, Josh, we also need to take it care for manifest as well. Even if it's just the vanilla manifest we provide with no extra additions from distributions, that these will need to work.
All right.
Yeah, I create a PI now.
All right. Thanks, Julius. First item on, so that's it for 1.7. Any questions?
Yeah, maybe I'm not sure. Ray wasn't covered so far. Maybe I can say something in the end about that. I don't want to take
No, we have Ray on the
anybody's time
agenda.
away.
We have Ray on the agenda. I actually have your name next to it. It's on the list
Oh,
here.
okay. Yeah.
I knew you were coming, so no, I'm joking here. Applications and add-ons. We're just doing some cleanup here. I figured some of these things would go fast and then we could get into some of those more cooler type things, although this is actually really cool. This piece here, tracking the contrib components and evaluation and cleanup. Anna and Kimonis had been working a lot on this. It seems as though, as you can see, a lot of things are being merged and being cleaned up. Seems like there's a lot of progress along these lines. Kimonis, any comments or anything that you want to reiterate around applications, add-ons, those type of things, just because this is a little bit of a complex topic and there's a lot of moving pieces.
Initially, that I didn't have the time to prepare the proposal for add-ons and applications that I want to have ready by this week, but I'm still trying to meet that deadline of doing it before the end of the year. For the PRs, it's going as expected, but one thing that this is just that personally got my eye. We have some manifests from Spark, and I would personally feel a little bit sad if we wouldn't have some manifest for Spark, but at the same hand, I think it's, at least from my end, it's too much for me to maintain. So most probably I'll have to merge the release for deprecating this as well. But it's one of the use cases that I believe a lot of people might actually use. So I'm a little bit sad to see that we don't have some users or dedicated story behind it, but it's okay.
This is okay, so on this one, last call. Without user support, or let's say without user contribution, Spark manifests will be deprecated. Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. I really do appreciate it. I know that some of this is really hard going through and cutting back the weeds a bit, but I thought you and Anna did a tremendous job on getting that started and making a lot of progress. So is there anything that you need to remind people of besides the Spark? Anything else that you need help with? Are we about done with this, or what's your take?
just a heads up if you already have a component and make sure that it's updated with the guidelines. For now, we're not that much strict on the product sides of things, but mostly to ensure that if we have a components under contrib, which will most probably be named add-ons, then it should at least have some clear instructions on how someone can install and use it. So that would be enough for now, I think.
Okay.
And if you want to also add a new component, these are the requirements we have for now.
Okay, so there are requirements there. Please try to follow them. And try to keep the docs and information up to date. Okay. One thing, I'm going to move on from this topic, Kimonis, if that's okay. Is I'd like to talk about community promotions. There are been, and I think Julius, you brought this up earlier. There's some discussion going on right now about kind of several interrelated things. And so let me see if I can do a better job of pulling them apart so we can talk about them in little pieces, right? The first one is that there's some new approvers that are asking to be promoted. I think we need to highlight their journey with Kubeflow. So I think Yuki and Julius and maybe some other folks are there. I asked the working group leads, are there other people, excuse me, that are being promoted into working group leads or into approvers?
So from the autonomous side, Yuki has been added as an approver, and all the leads have unanimously agreed to that. He has been active for so I put all the contributions in the PR. So he has been active for last 2 years and a core reviewer and has added lots of features to Catip.
That's wonderful. So this is big news. We need to make sure that we spotlight this and explain and try maybe get, Amber was talking about running these spotlight sessions. I think that having folks like Yuki and Julius kind of tell their story and give them some time to explain why and what they're doing would be great. So that's is that with Catib or is that with Training Operator 2?
That's with Catip. And one suggestion would be like maybe for every release, we could highlight the approvers or the stars that have contributed, right? I think that would be great, like in the blog post or somewhere else together with the release.
Yep, great. And then Julius, I know there was some different discussion about which groups that you were looking to be parts of, and one of them was the manifest. So I don't know, you, Kimonis, maybe you can give us an update of where that's going, if that's in your space to get approved, or where are we with this?
Should I or Kimonos answer?
Well, he's probably the working group lead or chair even of that group. So since he's promoting you, perhaps, but if he's not there, then you can.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, it's so silent. Maybe in the meantime, I can tell the reasoning. Yeah, it's also laid out in the PRs. I think I'm working for 2 years on Kubeflow. I did pull requests over most of the repositories. I think not every repository, but most of them, especially in pipelines and manifests. Yeah. And also partially Kubeflow/Kubeflow, some minor things here and there in other repositories, but this is my main focus. This is why I'm thinking about, manifest working group makes a lot of sense. Regarding notebook working group, I'm not so sure. I'm also planned 1.7 stuff there with Kimonas. Yeah, could be also a good idea, but this is something Kimonas knows a bit better than me.
So I also, just with the same rationale that the Caddy folks want more hands to help with the reviews, etc. I also believe that Julius would be a very good addition. The only thing, and this is bad from my side, that I haven't been up had the time to put some effort on that front, is actually the only, no, it's not exactly, it's a blocker, but the only thing I want to ensure is just there before we do such a change is just, I think this is your PR hit a really good spot there to actually just have some place to at least document a little bit what are we proposing. So what is Julius going to be according to the current docs that we have? Is it going to be a project owner? Is it going to be a tech lead? Is it going to be a chair? What does it mean to be a project owner? What are exactly the requirements right now? What if we want to move one step further? How can we have more permissions? So it's like, on the one hand, I don't really want to bury this effort with like the all the process thing, and I really want to push this forward. And but on the other hand, I really want to ensure that we have a process, and it's not whenever a working group has feels that we need a new person, let's just add someone else. Let's just add someone. I'd like this to also, it never can be 100% documented and like, okay, this is the rationale. There's always going to be exceptions and why some people might be chosen instead of someone else. But let's at least have some bare minimum process that we can say, okay, all the basic green flags pass, the leads like it, so let's move on with it. So just your PR is the last thing that I want to push some cycles to ensure that there is at least some documentation that we're also respecting for the roles that we propose, and we're not just doing, randomly adding people to groups, so that we start have some process for next folks that are interested as well.
Yeah, and I should list that PR here. I don't have it handy. I have to go. If anybody has that handy and can paste it in there, I'll add it in
I'll
later.
add it in a sec.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say that there's some terminology here that I found a little confusing. And then there were different titles and different requirements. And we were trying to talk about how do we make sure that all the working group leads understand the process, and are we adhering to the process, and do we need to change the process at all, because some of the working groups may not have 20 or 50 PRs that they're approving in a certain amount of time. So it may make it hard for somebody with fewer PRs to become a working group approver, which I think is really where people want to get to. I mean, your reviewer is great, but I think a lot of people want to move to that approver or lead or chair lead, right? And we need to document how that happens. And it is documented, but we just need to make sure everybody understands it. The other part is I put in the PR was, we have this sub project. I don't even know if anybody uses sub projects.
So I can give because I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and I can give a 2-minute overview of what my understanding is. I added a comment in that PR as well. So we have working groups, and the highest level, there's working groups, and the leads of working, there's the terminology of a lead. A lead is 3 roles as defined in the docs. I try to gather all this in my comments in the PR. It's first is a working group chair. So a working group chair is someone that has a lot of exposure and experience to the working group and defines like the roadmap and what are the priorities and where should the working group focus on. Then there's the tech lead that alongside the working group chairs, they discuss on the roadmap, how much feasible are specific aspects, where's the technical focus of the working group should be, should they accept new directions on the technical side from the project, etc. And then also the working group chairs are the ones that are responsible for setting up the meetings, doing the recordings, going over the community meetings. And then we have also the sub-project owners, which is we have a file in the community that lists all of the working groups. And for each repo, there is essentially sub-project owner are people in the root owners file of that repo, which it's not at the same level as a tech lead, but they have very, very, very good experience with the whole project, because being on the root owner's file of a repo, it means that you're not just an owner for only one component, but for all of the components of the repo, even for the roadmap file. So this is why a lead is someone that a working group lead is someone that is a sub-project owner or a tech lead or a chair. So the terminology might be a little bit too much. I think that the rationale was, let's make it to scale. For example, right now, the common use case is that a chair is also a tech lead in a lot of scenarios. Or we've seen that the CATIP folks wanted someone to be a lead, but not to be a chair or a working group lead. At least this is my understanding. So the new person in that case is just as a project owner and is only added to the root owners on the CATIP repo, not on the working groups, tech leads or chairs. Again, this is my understanding. Right now, from what I understand, at least the very first thing that we could do with Julius is at least have him being as a project owner for the manifest, and have the rationale of why and when should someone be as a project owner. What does it mean? What are the criterias? As you mentioned, we need to ensure that there's some substantial efforts, long history of commitment. And then at least briefly defining, like, okay, then the next steps from becoming a project owner to a tech lead to a chair, if they want. That would just be my bare minimum for this effort. Let's just have some base. Let's ensure people are in sync with this process. I don't believe we really need to change anything at this point. Just make sure we try to communicate as much as we can and expose it, so it's clear. Like, this is the path forward. You're an owner on a file. Now you're an owner of multiple components. Then you're a project owner, then a tech lead, then a chair. So that's my understanding. So if I monopolize the conversation.
Perfect.
I think we already had some ideas regarding that. I think the one step for becoming approver and also approver and reviewer in the root owner's file has to do with a lot of PRs, and tech lead and chair might, or whatever the new steps are, might be interesting on how many own newly added contributions, not just existing stuff. Maybe this would be my idea, for example.
Yeah,
that means you are really adding new stuff, not just fixing old stuff.
Yeah, these are the things we'll need to I just didn't want to get too technical because I was talking too much, but yeah, I completely agree.
All right, well, this is great. And I think in the new year, we need to kind of push this along for multiple reasons. One, we have these people that, we need to set the expectation properly, but also we have the CNCF and we need to make sure that all the working group leads understand. So I think I'm going to move on from this topic. I do want to come back to it, but I only had 5 minutes associated with it, and we've probably done our 5 minutes, but any final comments on this, or we'll pick this up in January? Is that okay? Review this. If you're very interested in this, review this PR, right? And perhaps that won't be the final PR, or maybe it will be, but it's at least a place to start from. Thank you, Kimonis. Amber, are you here today?
I think she was sick internally as well and couldn't reach out to her today.
Okay. So I had assigned, she thought she would be here, and she had a lot of ideas, good ideas on things that we should do about getting the security team running, the data science team.
Hey, Josh, I'm here.
Okay. So I have 2 or 3 things here listed for you around security, data science, outreach, KubeCon. You want to take the floor here and kind of walk through what your thoughts are?
Yeah, let's start with, can we start with KubeCon first?
Sure, go ahead. I'll take minutes.
So after the first of the year, since we are, working on, being part of the CNCF, they're redoing how they do your co-located events and stuff. And I was thinking that we should, in parallel, plan, think about, doing something in Amsterdam if we can get approved through the CNCF, or standalone if we're not part of the CNCF at that point. So I'd like to, once we come back from holiday, that we start really looking at the next Kubeflow Summit at KubeCon. So, and then if we're part of the CNCF, then we should have a booth there as well. So I was going to look into that, both of those pieces, both a summit as part of KubeCon, and then, what our booth would look like if we were in incubation at that point. So there's something to think about. And then also, I went back through the archive channels, and I'll start adding folks who were interested in the security group, switching to those teams. Since we can't add any formal working groups until we're in incubation, I figured we could just set up the teams, and the 4 teams that I was thinking about and need to, I guess, do a PR for is security, data science, outreach, and a distro working group. So we'll just set up teams, and we'll get all the governance and stuff in place. So once we're into incubation, we can just do the PR to apply to become, a working group or a special interest group or whatever we want to call it. But we do need to start working on those once we come back from the holidays. I know, Julius, you were very interested in that. So I'll probably be reaching out to you, especially around the security group. So there's, those things. And then how are we going to, grow the community? So that'll be the outreach part of it. We'll get data scientists interested and see who wants to help lead that. And then, of course, get the distro owners together to see what do we want, putting on my distro hat, like what do we as distros want on a roadmap where we can, kind of collaborate rather than differentiate. So some things to think about before, as we go into the holiday break, and things that we need to work on after the break.
I think that makes sense. My take on some of these would be that we need some charter for these things, but also some type of tactical delivery, right? And whether on security, this is fixing the CVEs or the rootless operation capability on data science. I think that we, again, need some type of charter and some type of tactical delivery associated with that defined. I think that would help these along. The other piece that I would say on the outreach part is that several major organizations have reached out. Big banks, big pharmaceutical, whatever, big retailers, and they're using Kubeflow. And I think we need to have an outreach meeting, a welcome meeting to new contributors. I think we need to walk through potentially how large enterprise customers can start to contribute to Kubeflow and explain what the process is. So perhaps in January, we set a meeting up for a new contributor, large enterprise, a welcome meeting, right? Or first steps, something like this. Does that sound
totally
okay?
Agree. And and we need it for like individuals too, because I know not only organizations have reached out, but individuals are also reaching out, going, where do I start? Trying to figure out where they can contribute. So we probably need to have 2 lanes, one for, enterprise organizations, and then one for individuals trying to contribute as well.
Yeah, was it Daniela that was working the outreach with you? Okay, so I'm going to put your names there. Okay.
Perfect.
And you need, I did some mentorships before for 2 people at least, which now have their first PRs. You will definitely need a list of mentors who are really available. And also at my new company, I'm trying to get some people on board. Yeah, so maybe finding other people who can help with mentoring would be very good.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you.
And for the working group, just a reminder, if there's any way that we can label things as good first issues or other types of stuff as we're going through, especially documentation needs or whatever, let's try to help the mentors by, making it easier, help wanted tags and good first issue, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, Amber, I'm gonna keep moving on the list, but if you want to jump in and say anything else, feel free, okay?
Yep, I'm good. The only thing I wanted to jump in and say, and I apologize because I was muted and couldn't figure out how to get off mute. But when we're looking at like people becoming, chairs and leads and all that kind of stuff, I know that we're all looking at PRs, but think of all the different ways folks who don't who contribute but don't necessarily write code, so they're not going to have a lot of PRs, but they're good on all the other non-coding things. We also need to figure out a way to let those people who might not necessarily write code but who want to be very active, a way for them to also become part of leadership in the project as well. So just something to keep in the back of our minds as we're doing this,
I got it listed there.
Thank you.
Let's think about that one. All right, I'm using this. Thank you for that, Amber, and we'll come back. I know we gave more time allocated for you to talk about these things. So if there's things that come up, feel free to jump in. I have this term that I'm using now, kind of Kubeflow sandbox partner projects. That's probably so wrong for me to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I'm going to say in the sandbox right now, and maybe that's wrong, is Bento ML, and Eric and Bo have been really good contributors. I want to highlight, best practice from them. They show up to the meetings, they contribute, they're making progress. Eric, Bo, how are things coming with your project and the integration? Is there a quick status that you could give us about, how you're doing and your experience so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you, Josh. It's been a great journey, and we learn a lot from Kubeflow. So our integration, our code is complete for 1.7 release, and our engineer is currently doing integration testing with 1.6, and he's also looking into the process to merge the code to manifest. And we are on target to merge the code for the January code phrase deadline.
That's great news. And so just so folks who are not aware of what Bento does, with this new functionality, they're going to be able to do what? If you could sum it up in a sentence or two, what will this add as an option now?
Yes, after these integrations, you would be deploy a Bento as a serving from the pipeline. That's the MVP that we demoed in the community meeting, I think a month ago.
Okay, so this simplifies the workflow to go from pipeline to serving, correct? And being able to use Bento to do the deployment.
Yes, correct.
Wow. Just fantastic news. Thank you, guys. What do you need from the team? If you have that PR and you need it approved or you need some help, can you let us know?
Oh yeah, so we Bo has a PR 3408 is on updating our old documentations. I think he fixed all the things, but it is pending approval. If anyone can approve, that would be great.
Go ahead.
I have one important question, which is also related to the PR I just posted. I'm spending a lot of time over the last 2 years. We're working towards a rootless Kubeflow, And also Kimonas wants to do some stuff regarding that in 1.7, and also at Ericto they are working regarding this. This is also why I created this PR, that's to add this to the requirements for new additions, that their containers do not run as root users or any crazy capabilities added manually. And I spent a lot of time with the Ray community to achieve this for the Ray integration. So I would like to know what is your status regarding that with BentoML.
Cool. I'll look into it, and also I'll add you to our Slack, so our engineers and you can have a direct communications on this.
In the end, it was quite simple. They did 3 PRs already. They are merged to master as far as I remember. So it's not difficult, but it's a big benefit for large enterprises who want to use it. And also for your BentoML itself, because the Ray people also did it for themselves, that they can advertise it. Hey, we support the official Kubeflow security guidelines, Kubernetes security guidelines, for example.
I see.
Hi,
Yeah,
this is
You can
Paul.
also write to me.
Yeah, so I think like we have a couple customers already using OpenShift. I think we'll definitely look in the security guidelines. I think we may be already compliant to that, but just like Eric said, we will definitely look into that and make sure it complies for everything.
If your stuff runs within OpenShift with the restricted SCC security context constraints is in OpenShift, then it's fine.
Yeah.
You just have to check that. Not the NDUID or something else.
Got it.
All right, we should probably capture that. And if you have that, Julius, the PR somewhere, again, maybe that's good to put on this security Slack channel, something like this, that we can just keep it and expose it and make sure people are paying attention to it. I'm gonna give you the
There is a
floor.
PR, I just posted it. And this is relevant for BentoML, etc. This is minor change to the contributing guideline, and they have my name there and can contact me, and I could also give you the list of the Ray PRs, but I'm not sure how important that is.
Well, that is a good lead up to what's going on with Ray. So if in a few minutes you could give us an update about how we're doing with Ray and what your gut feel is on this, that'd be great.
Yeah, but I don't want to interrupt the BentoML people. I mean, they are first.
I think we're good on Bento, right? I mean, we were looking for the 5 minute. I think we got a good Eric, Bo, anything else?
No,
green and on track, right?
Yeah, green on track. Only the 3408. Hope anyone can take a look and approve.
And we wish everyone good holiday.
All right. Good work there, guys, this year. You guys ran to the finish. That's fantastic. We're going to move on to Ray. How are things coming with Ray? Anyone got Julius? Anybody want to give an update there?
Yeah, there's the Ray Slack channel within Kubeflow. I think I have 2 or 3 merged PRs. They are also mentioned in the Slack channel, as far as I remember. They have really one dedicated developer who did some stuff, and yeah, they see why it was necessary and why it is useful. So far, it's quite hard to find people who want to help inside the Kubeflow with the Kubeflow part. I had Tobias Görke in mind, but yeah, I need to. I mean, I did the architectural documentation. I need to start myself soon with that. We're busy with some other issues. Yeah, but given the changes in the Ray master, and maybe also waiting a bit for the next official release where everything is included, I can then just use that. And the remaining part is boring configuration, but rather straightforward. And where I cannot, what I will not do is the user interface. So I will only do the backend, that there's the array operator inside the Kubeflow namespace, and that you can create them automatically from the namespace, all the permissions, security, authorization policies, RBAC, and so on, all of this stuff. But yeah, I think other people will do the UI, such that you then can click similar to Jupyter Labs. You should be able in the end to create array clusters.
Okay.
You can also see it in array channel, and maybe you can more or less copy it as you like.
What do we do here? Because, you know, there was a lot of interest. You know, Richard had proposed this at the Kubeflow Summit. We had some guys from Aurora that were using something similar or building it themselves and were interested in, you know, perhaps joining a project like this. What do we do, right? Do we need to get more exposure? Is a document coming that they need to review? How do we push this forward in your opinion? What help can we provide?
I fear that everybody is busy and prioritizing his own stuff, and that means that hopefully over the Christmas holidays or next year, in January, I can just do it myself with Tobias Görke. This is what realistically I'm expecting, because
right. No, I get that.
Array guys did their stuff.
I just worry that, you know, we have the 1.7 coming up in January. That's probably our #1 priority. This will get pushed to number, you know, 2 or 3, perhaps. So is it realistic that this is not a 1.7 type of thing, and then, or timing? And is this something that's probably going to happen more in February? I don't know. I'm just saying, right?
I'm not sure. The good thing is during onboarding, I might have more time. So I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I just need to start in January. And if I do this in a quite efficient manner, maybe I need 2 Mondays or 3 Mondays to do it, and then it's done. But I'm not I don't know exactly for sure yet.
All right. If we need to put some more exposure on this, let us know. It was a good update. I'm going to keep moving on a few more things because we have about 5 minutes. Anything else you want to say about Ray besides what you already had provided the update?
Yeah, the interesting thing would be to check when is the next Ray release. Maybe this could help us to determine when we can integrate this.
Okay. If anybody is offline and can paste that in, that would be great. And I know there were some new contacts over there because the original contacts, I think it was Dimitri, had moved on or moved to different roles, and now there's some new people. So I know keeping momentum through transitions is important. But in my opinion, the users need to show up, right? And keep pressure on. If they want it.
I think it was released 2 weeks ago, Ray 0.4, Cube Ray 0.4.0. So I think, yes, I should be able to start this in January.
Okay. So you think this was early Jan? Okay. I mean, early February, or early, I'll get it out. Early December 2020. Spell early. There we go. Okay. I'm going to move on to a couple more topics unless there's anything else on Ray. Anything else on Ray?
Not from my side.
All right. And the MLflow stuff and the concurrent, Jiajing said they were busy. They'll give us an update next year. They got end of year. Couple things I'm watching, just as tie it up at the end here, is we've often seen data preprocessing and transformation being one of the top things that people report, time consuming and challenging, model monitoring. You know, one thing that I've seen, it's not directly related to the transformation part, but something that people might want to be aware of is this company called Protopia. And they have this stained glass transform capability. It's not an encryption, but it protects against leakage of sensitive information. It allows you to do this obfuscation of data and allow you to use sensitive data outside of somewhere that might be super secure. And there's a good article on this. And so I've met the CEO of this company, and he might be interested in providing like a 5-minute update about what this tool does and why it's important in a way that you could share data, especially in places that have to be very careful about how their data is offered. So that's one. Another is gantry. I don't know if folks are familiar with gantry, but this is an easy way to log, graph, and compare model input, output, and incorporate human feedback. The founder of Gantry is from OpenAI. I think you all know that I'm pretty positive on OpenAI, and they have a pretty cool 4-minute demo that you can watch that walks you through kind of the value of the tool and how easy it is to do some of this logging, and then do what they're promoting is continuous training. And perhaps this human in the loop type of improvement of the model in a very fast way. So that's another thing where I may invite Josh Tobin from Gantry to come and talk to us. I have been looking at different data labeling tools. So, you know, data labeling, obviously, not just like what is the quality of the people that are labeling the data, and can you have different RBACs associated with the data labeling and tracking, basically, you know, here's a junior labeler, how well are they doing on labeling all this data? And can I then evaluate, you know, that they're doing something wrong and perhaps straighten them out? Or this is a guy or gal that's doing really good job with labeling, why are they having such good results, that type of thing. So that would be another person that some of the data labeling companies we might want to have come in and talk to the community. Again, these would just be, you know, 5-minute updates about what they're doing. And then if we want to do more with them, we can. And then the OpenAI stuff, I assume that some of y'all have seen some of the stuff from OpenAI, and I actually even tried to use ChatGPT to answer some of the questions on Slack with varying success. But if you haven't tried ChatGPT and read some of the papers on the reinforcement learning with human feedback, some of the stuff is quite impressive that they've been doing, and just potentially we may want to look at some of these. So I know I covered a lot there, but these are some of the projects that I'm looking at to invite people to. Is there anyone or none of these that anybody has interest in before the others? All right, I will just pick one or two and invite the folks to come in and perhaps to give us a quick update so they're related. We talked about the new contributor roundup. Again, I'm hoping that we can do that in January. The community meeting frequency, we've paused the alternate meeting that, like, we have this meeting bi-weekly right now that's at this time. Right now, we're only going to have a bi-weekly community meeting. On the alternate time, now we're going to have the CNCF meeting, which is talking about the CNCF donation. If we want to have another community meeting at a different time, like we used to have it at 5 p.m. or 5:30 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday, then we're going to need to see better participation. You know, in my opinion, if we're going to have a meeting, we should try to have, especially a community meeting, you know, at least 10 people kind of signing up saying that they're going to be there. And and I'm not saying everybody's got to show up to every meeting, but you know, we've had some of these community meetings on the off time where, you know, we get 3, 7, 4, whatever. It's not terrible, but and it adds continuity. But right now, the community meeting frequency is going to be bi-weekly at this point. Any questions on that? And then I don't know if James Wu is here, and I know we're just about over time, but you know, the CNCF donation seems to be coming along pretty well. We have a lot of material that's been collected here. We're trying to be you know, as public with all the information as possible, posting all the recordings. You've got the blog, you've got the CNCF PR, the meeting notes, the project meeting. Yeah, these strategic items, this, I believe, from setting up the committee structure and the interim candidate nominations, this was approved. This PR, which is 587 under community. And then there are some tactical ones that we need to work on, including the CNCF checklist, which this is the start of probably a lot of things that we need to get done. And I've started to gather some documents to help with that, but I think we have some things there. And then review of the potential updates on approvers and reviewers. This is what Kimonis and I were talking about earlier, and there's a larger discussion in this document that Andre had built on this particular topic. But there's a lot of work on the tactical aspects that aren't listed here that we're going to have to pay attention to. So we're a little bit over time. Any comments on this? I know kind of tried to force fit a lot of stuff there in at the end.
Hello. So James Wu is out of office right now, but I can speak for it because right now what we want to do is to form the intermediate the project governance. Basically, we have very simple governance models for us to enter the CNCF. And after that, after the CNCF has accepted Kubeflow, we can spend more time into strategic and tactical item, and also laying out the final structure of the governance models. And then, yeah, we will eventually like kind of have a election-based model for the Kubeflow governance. So yeah, so we will do it step by step. Like our first goal is to be accepted by the CNCF.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. And I know there's a lot that we could go in and talk about the CNCF's donation, but does anybody have any questions on where to find information? Does anybody have any burning issues that need to be addressed on the CNCF so we can put those on the meeting notes for the next meeting? All right, well, I'm sure y'all know how to get a hold of us. And if there's something that comes up, either add it to this or Slack us, or let's get it onto the meeting notes documents themselves and add them to.
Sorry, I was muted. I have one question, especially for James Liu. The Google guys are the ones who have the rights to change the ACL list with the manifest leads and so on. Ericto can only do part of that, for example, with the working group manifest leads. How is this going to, who's going to have these permissions in the future?
This is, of course, like eventually once this being donated to CNCF, then the CNCF will like grant this permission to the governance model of the Kubeflow, and then the governance model will have the control over the ACL. But if you need my help, like immediately, like for example, you want to join the manifest working group, and then manifest currently the manifest working group, if they approve, I can help you unblock it.
There is the PR, but Kimonas has to decide.
Yeah, I think once Kimonas has decided, just let me know. I can help with the remaining permission issue.
Okay. I will just ping you on Slack then, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so I think this is the final meeting of the Kubeflow community for this year. We will start off next year. I'm not even sure what our first meeting is. Has anybody looked up at the calendar? I should probably pay attention to that. I'll give it a second. But
Is it January 3rd?
is it the 3rd?
Yes.
There we go. So there's work to do to prepare for the meeting on the 3rd. I think that everybody in the community appreciates all the work that folks have done. I think we've made a lot of progress this year, and I just want to say personally thanks. Any other, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever, whatever you say. I say Merry Christmas, but is there anything that anybody else has to say before we close out today? All righty. Well, have a good one. We'll be on Slack, and if you need something before then, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Josh. Thank
See
you,
you next
everybody.
year. All right,
Bye.
guys. Bye now.
Have a good one.